today with Dr. Nicki Williams from Galleria Animal Clinic. As I just learned, you've been a vet officially for 7 years.
Yep.
From Auburn. Very proud of you. And have you been at Galleria the whole 7 years?
I have. I've actually been at Galleria a good bit longer than that. I grew up in the veterinary business there, so.
Good to do. And you're with Dr. Alan Borden, who,
yes.
Full disclosure, is the husband of the library director here at
Yep.
Hoover Library. So yeah, he gets all the props. And also I'm here with Jana Maynard, and she is not only my friend who I learned through, I got to know through my own pet adoptions and the Sugarbelle Foundation, which she founded. She will probably go into a little bit more detail about what Sugarbelle Foundation does and how unique they are. But she's been a school teacher in the Hoover system the whole time. 26 years, did you
Almost
say?
the whole time.
Yeah.
This is my 23rd year in Hoover and my 26th year to teach.
Fantastic. And if you hear Jana's origin stories, you will know that she was destined to be in the pet rescue, pet advocacy business from a young age. And our purpose today is not to put you off pet ownership, because we are all very happy pet owners, but to give you information to make it a better making a better decision as a pet owner. And you know, I call myself a pet parent. I don't have children, but I have 2 dogs and a tarantula. And so that's the life I've chosen, and it's very fulfilling. So each of you, we're going to go through some slides. We're going to talk. We're going to take questions in the chat. If you have any questions or have anything you want clarified, just feel free to type up in the chat, and we will try and get an answer for you. You know, who wants to go first?
Do you want us to go ahead and pull up the slide presentation? And
if you'd like that, if you'd want to start that way, sure.
Okay, Dr. Nicki,
very loose here.
It works for me.
Okay, so here we go. Share screen.
And you click on the screen you want to click. Yeah.
And then share.
Very good.
I did it.
Very good.
And then I can come over here to click each one. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. All pets, regardless of what kind of pet you get, if you choose to adopt, you choose to buy from a reputable breeder, or even end up getting a pet for free, they're going to need a lifetime of proper care. And a lifetime can be up to 20 years for some animals. My cat's about to be 20, so it can be a long time. And
even longer for birds, Jana, even longer for birds.
Oh, that's right, birds. What is it, parrots that can last, that live
80 years? Yeah.
Yeah, I should have thought about that. My cousin had a parrot. This includes their yearly vaccinations, vet visits, heartworm preventative, flea and tick prevention, food, training, playtime, and as you can see by the picture of Jacob, some cooking classes. Him in his new home, helping his family. So this adds up to a good bit of money each year. And Dr. Nicki, we were talking earlier that this included a lot of stuff on here, but there were some things that you had mentioned if you wanted to add.
Yeah, you know, it depends on what kind of animal you have, if they require grooming and whatnot. You know, if we get like a poodle or a doodle type, they usually every 6 to 8 weeks, you're gonna have to take them to the groomers, and that's getting kind of expensive these days. I've heard of some, you know, less than or around 50, but a lot of them can go up to 100. And so for that, every other month, I mean, that's a good chunk of change too. Not to mention if you live in an apartment fees and whatnot that go along with that. And that obviously varies apartment to apartment. I don't know all of those. They also have some limitations on what you can have. So if you are living in an apartment, you want to make sure you check those rules before you go and get something.
And also, you know, sometimes you'll have a house, but you don't have a fence.
Yep.
want a dog that's going to be super active. So you have to consider the cost of fencing. And right now with the cost of lumber, you know,
That chain link fence is looking pretty nice.
yeah, that chain link fence is looking really nice. And there's a lot of time invested. When you have a pet, it's not just get up and go in the morning or come home and cook dinner. You're going to get up and take care of your pets first. And it's like having children. You get to tend to all their needs and then you tend to your needs. And yeah, that could be daily walks or running out and playing in the backyard or whatever it is that they enjoy doing. But that does take time. And that's things that we need to consider as well. Because a lot of people will say, well, I got this dog and I thought it would be okay, but I don't have time. So those
We
are
do see that a lot.
to think about. And we're going to move on from cute little Jacob.
And I can I just point out,
Yes.
a lot of people make emotional decisions. They find a dog or a cat, they want to help it out, and they get into a situation where they have an emotional attachment now, but they haven't parsed out the whole cost perspective of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. There are other types of pets. Not everybody wants something that's fluffy. They might prefer to have a fish or have lizards, frogs, turtles, even snakes. And they require daily care. They are going to need food, proper habitats. And sometimes they even need vet care depending on what type of pet you have. So you need to keep in mind that you not only have the initial cost of that pet, but you have to get a tank, the food, the lighting, the accessories. And for exotic pets, it's even more. And there might be special vet care as well. So you would need to, before doing that, I would highly recommend that you check around town. We know that Alfred Animal Clinic and Riverview both are two that we're aware of that do work with some exotic pets. One of my coworkers at school had a pet snake, and he had the big setup and he would bring food for it and all of that. So they do require a lot of care and apparently a lot of love if you have a snake. All the kids wanted to like pet it. I don't know. So Dr. Nicki, did you want to add anything?
Oh, I think you did pretty good coverage there. I mean, if you're going to get an exotic pet, you obviously want to do your research to know. I mean, a lot of the exotic pets are nocturnal too. So are you a night owl, or is that going to disturb your sleep? And do you have the space in your house to keep them where they're not going to disturb anybody while resting? And then some of the reptiles and stuff don't like a whole lot of handling. So I mean,
Right.
there's definitely different kinds of pets for everybody, but you definitely want to look into
And
that.
to
Obviously.
also, just as an environmentalist, is, make sure that it's legal in
Yes.
Alabama to have the pet that you are thinking about having,
Yes.
because not all animals are destined to be pets, and not all animals are allowed to be pets.
Very true. That was a good point. So how do you become a pet owner or a pet parent? What are some of the different ways? Adoption, a reputable breeder, or backyard breeder, puppy mill. And under tips, you'll note that there is a difference between a reputable breeder and a backyard breeder. And it is very important to do your research and know where your new best friend is coming from. Dr. Nicki, do you want to hit a little bit on, okay, well, we'll start with adoption.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah.
Let's start with adoption.
I mean, that may be your area of expertise, Jana,
Okay.
since that's kind of what you run, but I mean, I'm happy to chime in, obviously.
Okay, typically, I have worked in the adoption arena with Sugarbelle and with a rescue. So typically, if you're going to adopt, you're going to want to adopt from a rescue or a shelter. There's usually a contract involved. The contract will tell you that you're going to return that pet typically to the rescue or the shelter if you can no longer keep it. There's a possible home visit. I know that most rescues do home visits. I know we do home visits if we do have an animal needing a home. There's typically a paid adoption fee. It's probably going to be less of an adoption fee at a shelter than it will be through a rescue. And even with rescues, that can range how much adoption fees are. The pets are typically spayed, neutered, vaccinated, microchipped. So that helps you. And sometimes you can even talk to the foster parents and get more information about the pet when you're doing an adoption. And that's Gilbert. He needs a home.
Gotta put some plugs in there.
Put a plug in for Gilbert. And Dr. Nicki, I know you're more familiar with reputable breeders.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you talk about that.
Absolutely. And so obviously going to a reputable breeder, usually they're going to focus only on one breed. Occasionally they have a couple, but usually they've got one breed that's kind of their jam. They've been doing this for a long time. They might know more about that breed than I do. And then, one of the good things you get with that is a reputable breeder, you're usually going to get some health testing. They're going to do tests on the parents to make sure that they're passing on positive genes. They're going to be passing on the healthiest dogs that they can, because the reputable breeders are the ones that are involved in shows, the ones that are involved in agility, sports, just advanced training with their dogs. Their dogs are their world, and they want nothing but healthy dogs. They want their dogs and their dogs' kids and their dogs' grandkids to be living the longest, healthiest lives they can. As Jana was talking about with rescues, a lot of them are going to have some sort of contract where they may not, a lot of them will agree to take those animals back, but they'll get at least first right of refusal. So at all possible, they're going to want that dog back. They want to make sure that they know where their animals are going. They may do home visits. That kind of depends on the breeder and kind of the location. They may have more background checks, reference, stuff like that, depending on how far away you are from that breeder. Spayed or neutered is kind of a plus or minus depending on what age you're getting them. They may have that in their contract. It kind of depends on the purpose you're getting that pet for. A lot of times if you're getting a purebred pet, it may be for show or for doing other things with. And you may not, they may not require that immediately, but they will be up to date with their vaccines as far as age. Now, that doesn't mean they're done with their vaccines, because depending on what age you get them, which usually reputable breeders are going to let you take that puppy between 8 and 12 weeks at some point in there, because we're still in some of our socialization at that point. They're going to have started their vaccine series and deworming series and everything. They're probably not going to have finished it, so you are going to need to continue that. A lot of those are going to be in their contract. They're going to expect you to come to a vet within a certain period of time. Sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it's a week or two, just to make sure that the animal's checked out healthy by your veterinarian and kind of by your end, just to make sure, hey, I did send you a healthy puppy. There's no obvious issues or defects right now, and things develop down the line, because that can happen even with a well-bred dog, even with temperament test and health tested animals. We can have issues kind of come up down the line, but it's not something that the breeder knew about and was hiding. That's something you're not necessarily going to get with some of the backyard breeders. They're not doing all those testing, and they're not guaranteeing, they're kind of, once you've paid for it, that dog's yours, it's your problem, you come and get it. The cost will be higher for sure, because again, they've gone through all this health testing. They're not in this to make money, even though it seems like it at times, because those puppies can cost significantly more than if you got it from the shelter. But the time and the effort they put into those dogs, again, if we're talking about show dogs, stuff like that, they've gone through, putting them through shows. Usually they're champions by the time that they've bred them. That's a lot of show entries before you get enough points to become a champion. If they're doing, advanced training with them, they've done OFA hips, they've done elbows, they've done hearts, they've done patellas, they've done eyes. You've had to go to all these different specialists to make sure that, okay, these dogs are of sound breeding quality. They're dogs that you do want to pass on. They're dogs that you do want to make more of, essentially.
And I'm going to throw this in as I go to the next one, which is about backyard breeders and puppy mills. Alabama, we have a lot of animals here, and we don't have a lot of great laws, and we're all really hard to get better laws for our companion friends. One thing that we have found out as there's a number of people working in that direction, and one of the things that we have found out as we've talked to many reputable breeders is that they're on our side. They are all about this better laws and spay and neuters. And because what's happening is the non-reputable breeders, people who we call backyard breeders and puppy mill places, they are in it for money. They just want to breed and breed and breed, and they will breed a dog literally until it can no longer breed, and then they discard it. So it's very unfortunate. And so these are your animals that, typically every now and then, if maybe an oops litter you see being given away for free, and the people will accept help. And that's always great. I mean, I'm always thrilled when there's I didn't get my dog fixed. They had a litter, and, we managed to get a rescue involved. And I always say, can I help you fix your dog? And when they say yes, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I know they think I'm crazy, but I am. But these are their dogs that can be given away as free. They'll be advertised as they're going to meet you instead of having a safe, clean location to go to meet the parents, see where the animal is. It's typically unhealthy. I know Sugarbelle has helped a number of puppies with parvo that came from litters that were just given away and unhealthy. Vet visits can be quite costly to get your pet healthy, vaccinated, spayed, neutered. And sometimes these pets are just flat out too sick to survive because they were given no care because the person just wanted to get their money. And these animals are often seen in Walmart parking lots, flea markets. You need to beware. Know what you're doing.
What you could be getting into.
Yeah, because we all want to save that animal, but if things like that bother you, then find out how you can be involved to help us change laws and make it better for our friends. But do know that there is a big difference between your reputable breeder who's doing this for the love of the breed and your backyard breeder, puppy mill person who is doing it for money. And a lot of those people are AKC registered, just so you know that. That does not mean that they're good.
Yeah.
Know that as well.
Well, and so Jana, is there a slide later to talk about like what to look for in a good breeder? Because that's a good point. A lot of the backyard breeders can be AKC registered.
I thought we had, yes, we still have that slide. We did.
Okay.
I believe it's right here. Perfect. With costs and well, this is the adoption versus breeder costs with adoption, backyard breeder, and reputable breeders. But if you want to go ahead and hit on what to look for.
Well, and so, just kind of like what we had already talked about a little bit, is the fact that they're going to be open to you coming and seeing where these dogs are. They're not hiding anything from you. These dogs, they're doing it for the love of the dog. They're doing it for the love of the breed. They love these dogs. They want what's best for them. They're taking good care of them. They're not ashamed to show you, where they're coming from. And then again, I talked about the reputable breeders doing a lot of health testing. So, if there's a breed that you're interested in, you can look up on AKC what health tests are recommended for that breed, because certain breeds are more predisposed to others. Hips is a good one for a lot of them. But eyes and patellas, that's for some of the poodles and little dogs. Hearts for the Cavaliers, stuff like that. So look up, if there's a particular breed, what health tests are recommended for that. And then if you find a breeder, talk to them. Hey, what health testing are you doing? What do you do with your dogs as far as, do you show them? Do you do sports? Do you, what do they do for fun? What kind of temperaments do you have? Because there's different temperaments even among breeds of dogs too. Certain people breed for kind of different things, especially one of the biggest ones you think about is labs. You have kind of show labs and you have hunting labs. Well, the hunting labs are usually not the same line of show labs. Show labs are going to be a little bit blockier head, a little bit stockier dog, a little bit calmer disposition than some of the hunting dogs, because those hunting dogs are bred to have endurance. So their kind of champion is a little bit different than a show champion, and they're going to have a little bit different health and whatnot too.
Good information. And this is just a chart to kind of look. So you've now decided, I really want to adopt a furry friend. So what's next and how much do you budget? So you have to think about what your pet's going to need, food, how much each month, vaccinations, spay, neuter, yearly checkups, and emergencies. And I can just say from experience, I was living in Pensacola at the time, 1,000 years ago, right out of college, working at the hospital, and I'd found a dog and it got away from me. So I, of course, go straight down to the pound to see if somebody's picked up this dog, or because I want to make sure we try and find its owner, because I didn't know what I was doing. And so while I was there was a dog in the very, 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 very back of the kennel, shaking, terrified. And she was beautiful. So I took her home and then called my parents. And my mom said, have you thought about this? Because we had pets at home, but mom and dad paid for all of that. Mom said, have you thought about this? This is not your ferret. So I had a pet ferret. And so I was like, no, but I guess I will. So right then and there, I learned real quick, I better start thinking about all these things, because she did need some stuff. And I had her till ripe old age, and she was a great dog, but it's important, because I did make a snap decision. She was terrified and I took her home. So
And I might also interject, we haven't really touched on this, but when you're deciding, when you are moving forward with the idea of getting a dog or cat, this mainly goes for dogs, but I've always heard that mutts are healthier. I don't know if that is a myth, because I'm sure it depends. But you know, if you're wanting to get a purebred, you might run into more health issues if it's been bred improperly. Nikki, can you speak to that?
Yes,
I'm a mutt lover. I've
yeah.
only had mutts, so
Well, and
yeah.
I have half and half. And I'll tell you, I don't know that it's better one way or the other necessarily. And I feel like it's that way in practice too. I think with purebreds, I know what health issues I'm getting into, and I can be kind of prepared for those. I expect certain breeds to have allergies. I expect, you know, with certain age, we're going to have different diseases pop up with different breeds. And that's more, you know, well, if this dog comes in with these symptoms, it's this in my head until proven otherwise. Whereas if it's a mixed breed, I don't necessarily always know, you know, what we're going to deal with, but I mean, we definitely see a number of health issues with mixed breeds too. Now, I don't know if that's because we see more mixed breeds, because a lot of, you know, a lot of clients do have, you know, mixed breeds or mutts or a rescue of some type. And, you know, that's, we definitely still see health issues, and we still see issues from the breeds that they're made of. But like I said, with purebreds, we kind of know a little bit more what to expect with health issues, and we can see them both with well-bred dogs and, you know, dogs bred from a backyard breeder. Obviously, I expect more issues from one that hadn't had health testing, had, you know, they didn't necessarily care about the parent's health before breeding.
Go ahead, Jana. Sorry.
Okay, no, great questions. So some startup costs for pet ownership. And this was a beagle in the picture. He's in a new home. He has a home. He and his siblings all got adopted into great homes. But we did help them. They were, poor little guys, were all dumped. So the below shows part of the adoption fee. Vetting and vaccinations could be for a dog $50 to $300. This should be part of it. Cats could for vetting 100 to 200, spay or neuters 20 to 300, and microchips 10 to 50 if not part of the adoption fee. Typically, if you're adopting, your dog and cat should have most of this already done. And if you're purchasing from a reputable breeder, you're going to have a good bit of
that
started as well, with some expectations along the way. So that's just to think about, hey, you know, I'm going to get this dog on, you know, the side of the road. What is it going to cost me? So this is just kind of an annual expense, and food could be $250 to $750 a year. It depends on what you feed your dog. It depends how many dogs you have. I mean,
well, it depends too on, you know, do they need a special diet? One of my dogs is on a prescription food that costs more than $50 a month. So
right.
he's not cheap, and that's just his food. That's not his medication, because he's got a number of those too.
Right. And cats, the same thing. You know, annual medical exams, and these are estimated. It depends on what veterinary clinic you use. You need to know, oh, well, I saw on something it said an annual medical exam would only be $50 to $150. No, you've got to, all vets have different costs. It's always a good idea to contact the vet clinic ahead of time and say, hey, could you just give me a breakdown of what it would be for me to come in for an annual visit? What would that cost me? So that you have an idea, especially if you don't know and you're looking for a clinic, that kind of thing. Vaccinations, anywhere from 10 to 100, preventative medical, 50 to 300. It could be more than that. It could also be $50. So litter and toys and supplies, that's probably a low ball on toys.
I spend more than that for sure.
Yeah, that's probably a low ball for toys and supplies. That's probably like monthly. So especially if you have our crazy crew at my house. But when you're looking for a clinic, also ask people you trust who have pets. Hey, who do you use? Why do you go there? Why do you like them? Because you're going to find out that there's going to be a clinic that's going to fit well for you. Okay, so always consider all.
And if you go somewhere and it doesn't fit for you, even if it's just the fact that you didn't feel like you meshed, that's okay. We're all people and not everybody's going to work perfectly together. So if you went somewhere and you didn't like something, make a comment to them, but I mean, feel free to shop around, that's.
It's just like parents ask about pediatricians.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same thing, asking about doctor for your animal. These are the startup costs. If you're just starting up, we're looking at adoption fees can be anywhere for dogs, 600 and plus, depending. And that's an adoption fee. That's not a breeder fee. I mean, there are adoption fees that are $600.
Or more, especially if you're going through one of the purebred rescues or something like that, 'cause that
Right.
exists. Then the younger dogs, it's like they do go for more because they don't get those in as often.
Right.
So.
And cats, the same thing, anywhere up to possibly 300. From a breeder, you're looking at probably 600 to 3,000, and that's just an average.
Yeah.
It can be more.
And not to diminish what you're saying, but there are ways. I mean, your cat and dog don't have to have $20 a
No.
month of cat
No.
toys and dog toys.
No.
They're happy with a bottle cap and a spool of thread or something.
That
But
could be more along the $20 a year
right.
that
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
initially going for, but we were just
Yeah.
joking around about, we
Yeah.
spend more than that on toys and
Oh,
Yeah.
and stuff.
Ours are.
And you're looking at, as Dr. Nicki brought up, if you're buying any kind of long hair, cat, dog, whatever, you're in for more investment of grooming, or you're going to take it on yourself, especially if it's a cat. You can
Maybe an investment of time.
Yeah, you
An
got to
investment of time on the
them,
grooming.
give them time where you can groom them a little bit. And then there are dogs where you can't groom them yourself, or you don't want to watch the YouTube video. I tried that with my Shih Tzu and it did not look well.
It's
Over
an
the
art. It's an art. Groomers charge a lot because they do a good job.
Well,
They
I didn't
do.
know during the pandemic, what was I to do? Let his hair just grow out? I gave it a shot. So
Hey,
yeah, sorry to
You gotta
interrupt.
do that sometimes.
No. And your initial setup is going to be things like bowls, bed, crate, leashes, tags. It's always important to have proper tags on your pet, toys, things of that nature. And preventative medical treatments, heartworms, ticks, flea meds, anything like that. And cats do need flea meds. They may not need it as much because if you have an indoor cat, it might be perfectly fine. But I will tell you this, I had 3 indoor cats at the time, and they never go outside. And I walked upstairs, stepped my foot down, and it looked like Flea City on my ankles. And I thought, where'd these come from? And so, of course, now they get preventative.
So they can hop in on you or the dog.
Yep.
They can ride in on us for sure.
They rode
let me
in.
Jump in and just do a little spiel on crates, because I think crates are very
Yes.
important, especially for preventative medicine. Every time a new client comes in with a new puppy or a new dog that they've adopted, I definitely harp on crate training, because it is so important, not just for the safety of your pet as far as being able to have somewhere that they feel safe, but for when you get a puppy, you don't trust that puppy. Those puppies are going to eat your window sills. They're going to eat your furniture. They're going to eat your shoes. They're going to eat toys. And while that might be frustrating for you because it gets expensive for all the things that they can eat, it can also be dangerous for them. I don't know how many puppies we've taken hair ties, socks, underwear, toys out of. And that's puppies that, we've done as young as 12 weeks. That's our record setting exploratory surgery. But I mean, we do it on 4 and 5 month old puppies, not that infrequently. Because they're not in their crate and they're not being watched right then, and no, it's difficult. I've got young kids. My kids leave stuff out. We're gonna leave toys out. Toys are out where they are. So if the toys aren't picked up, somebody needs to be watching those dogs. And for the most part, that's younger dogs. But some dogs don't grow out of that as well. And so if you've got a dog that's comfortable in a crate, they've got somewhere where I can put them up if I don't have the chance to watch them while I'm bathing my kids, while I'm putting my kids to bed. If I'm gone, I want them to have somewhere that you're not going to get into trouble. You're not going to eat something where I'm going to need to do surgery or need to take you to the vet for. So that's a big preventative thing for me. That's one of my kind of big almost pet peeves when people are so anti-crate training, because it's like, this is a safety thing for me. It's not just that I'm not trying to lock my dog away 24/7. That's not what I want to do at all. That's not what I want to encourage. It's, I want them to have somewhere safe. If we're traveling, they come to the vet's office, I don't want them freaking out in a cage. That's not fair to them. That just makes the scary situation even scarier. If they're comfortable in a crate, then, oh, I'm in my safe space. Okay, this is fine. It's not as scary or frightening for them.
Now, I know that you may encounter a lot of that in the first few months of, what is that dynamic of with 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, for them to get a new pet to get settled in? It's like 3 days.
Well, and that varies. It varies, if we're adopting an
Yeah.
adult versus a puppy and whatnot too. Because an adult's probably going to take a little longer to get comfortable in their shoes because they realize this is a new situation. A puppy, they just moved from the only home they ever know. Some of them are going to bounce right through, like, oh, okay, this is fine. People are here to love me. It's cool. That could vary big time, but definitely, anytime you get a new animal, you want to give them time to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We always do because we're able to, we do a 3-week trial period to try and give them time. But of course, we're not an actual rescue, so we have that time. I wish I had known about crates 30 years ago when I got my first dog, maybe 35. I don't remember how old I am now. But because Lady literally ate the right shoe. I had Nina's, for those who are old enough to remember Nina's, and they came in every color in the rainbow. My dad owned a shoe store, so I had them in every color. She only ate the right shoe. Only ate the right shoe. She never ate the left shoe. And so, my parents were like, well, you need to put your stuff in the closet and everything. But it did work out because I worked at Children's and I had an amputee patient. She needed left shoes. She got a whole bunch of great shoes. Worked out great for her. So yeah, her mom was thrilled. But Lady only ate the right shoe. And if I had her in a kennel and had known about that, I might have had more shoes to wear. So yes, we crate train all our babies. So how do we prepare for the unexpected? We all love our pets like family, but what happens when an emergency occurs? Pet insurance can help if something unexpected occurs. Many companies offer pet insurance nationwide: State Farm, Progressive,
Trupanion.
Thank you. Embrace. Dr. Nicki, why don't you talk about this? Because
Yeah.
the pet insurance.
Well, and I just kind of did a list of ones that I've had recommended to me through other veterinarians too. I know Trupanion and Embrace came pretty highly recommended. And those, are obviously nationwide. They're not just located in Alabama, as well as State Farm, Nationwide, Progressive. Look into all of those, and because they're going to have different, what they cover, different, they're going to have different levels too. And you can call and talk to them and get a quote. As far as, they're going to vary by breed, they're going to vary by age, because they know, if you've got a purebred dog, what health things are we expecting in this? And that's something, if you do get a young dog or you just adopted a dog, it's better to do it sooner rather than later, because the longer you have them, the more likely something is to happen. And if something happens, they no longer cover usually anything associated with that. Now, again, there are different levels. I have a client, I can't remember if he uses Nationwide or State Farm, but he has to pay, maybe $200 or something a year of his dog's vet bills, and then he only pays 10%. Well, his dog is this giant lab that's on a prescription food, that the food is $100 a month. He pays $10 for it. That sounds like a great deal to me. That's definitely worth it. He's definitely saving money by doing his insurance. And the fact that he did it as a puppy, it's like, okay, all of his dog's allergies, because they started around 1.5 years, 2 years old, they're all covered for the most part. Now some of those, I can't remember which ones, but some of them only cover it for a year or so before they start charging you a little bit more for it. But I'm not sure the details of that. But that can definitely be, very beneficial. One of my dogs, when he was 11 months old, tore his ACL. And, an 11-month-old dog, we've got a long time left on that leg. And so we took him and had him fixed at the specialty clinic. And right now that surgery runs around $3,500 to $5,000. It's not a cheap surgery. That's a lot of out of cost pocket that you're not expecting with an 11-month-old dog.
Dr. Nicki, what is care credit?
So care credit is something you can apply for, usually through the emergency clinics, some of the specialty clinics, some of the, it's an actual credit card company, because they work for like human medical stuff too. But it's something, so it's our clinic doesn't work with care credit. I think it just had a lot of hoops to jump through, so we just haven't. But a lot of clinics, just individual clinics, do as well. So if something like that does pop up, you can get a credit card specifically for medical bills for that. Now I know that the interest rate on that gets a lot pretty quickly, but if I just need 2 weeks or a month or something, that's definitely a great option.
And it's also, we went ahead and applied for a care credit, and I just got a card with a certain amount on it. It stays in the cabinet. And if for some reason we couldn't get to you guys at Galleria and we had an emergency after hours and maybe running a little bit low, we have that.
Yeah.
So it's worth having it, even if you're not necessarily using it.
And you can apply for it. I mean, you can apply for it and find out if you get approved or not, usually day of emergency. So it's not, you don't have to have it ahead of time, but it's something that most emergency clinics are going to work with, and they're going to have the forms and everything that you would need to fill out and the hoops that you need to jump through for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we put on here, and Dr. Nicki, you can address this, if your personal vet's open, you have a good relationship with them, they may be able to work with you on a payment plan. It depends on the vet, depends on their policies. Some vets are privately owned, some vets are corporate owned.
Yep.
And, there are different policies that go along with it. So I see people getting angry a lot of times at some vet, they'll say, well, that vet clinic, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, also, I know for a fact that sometimes vets have worked with people and vet clinics have worked with people, and then those people just disappear and never paid their bills. And so, you have to take into consideration, this is somebody's livelihood. They went to school for many, many years to be a veterinarian. And so you need to be considerate of that.
Well, and there are costs associated with care. Even if we end up with a bad outcome, that doesn't mean it didn't cost us to run the blood work,
Right.
to do other testing, to do additional testing. Especially if not everything, is done in-house too. There's added expenses that we don't control. And so, I mean, that's definitely something, like if y'all don't pay the bill, we still have to pay the bill, because we work with these companies on a routine basis. And so, I mean, that is, I mean, you have to have an established relationship with a vet for sure before they're going to accept any sort of payment plan. And some of them just don't. That's just not, we get burned too many times doing that. And we want to be able to help all the animals we can. And we can't do that if we can't pay our bills.
Right. And so you just need to remember your pet's your responsibility, and you need to make sure you care for them, just like your child is your responsibility if you have children. Now, under the tip, we do have where if we send this out, the 10 best pet insurance companies of 2021. Thank you, Dr. Nicki. I wanted to throw something out just real quick, though, when we were going over insurance. A lot of people have pit bulls as pets, and they contact us. We have to get rid of them because our homeowners insurance won't cover this. And we didn't even think about this, but I can tell you, having State Farm does cover having pitties in your home. They welcome them. So just a side note. So what happens if my pets outlive me, or I can no longer care for them? Something happens. This is a common question, and one we should consider. We never know what life might throw our way, but we should be prepared. So a couple of good things: you can meet with your attorney or lawyer to have a plan for your pet. You can have a trust set aside, and there is the ASPCA Pet Trust Primer, and that's on aspca.org site. And I got that just right before we started this from a friend of mine who's an attorney, and she said they are literally writing these all the time, the pet trusts. So she said that's the way to go. Consider a portion of your life insurance or savings account. Hey, this is going to be set aside to help with my pets. Have a guardian set up for your pet in the event something should happen to you, preventing you from taking care of your pet. It could be a family member. It could be a willing friend. It could be somebody that you are close to in a rescue type arena that says, yes, we will take your pet. We will find a loving home, but make sure everything is in writing.
Well, and if you don't have a friend or family member that can or is willing to take, your pets, have somebody that's designated to help find them a home or help contact a rescue organization in order to find them a home. Have somebody in your group of family or friends that will be looking out for your pets, that can at least send them in the right direction if they can't take care of them themselves.
And yeah, we see a lot of that, and people say, well, I didn't even realize I could do something. So now we know. So if you don't know, you don't know.
And if you don't have a friend that's willing to do that, you can always get in touch with your veterinarian too. I've had a number of clients that say, okay, I've had this health issue come up and I'm not totally sure, who's going to take care of them. I'd like to leave some money with them. Would you guys be, willing to help find them a home, or do you know anybody, or can you get me in touch with that? Because, your vet clinic has more contacts in that way too.
Right.
Yeah.
And also in preparing for this program, I was amazed at how many, I only use Facebook, and it's mostly for library stuff, but I'm sure it goes for all the social media things. There's all kind of rescue groups, dog groups, cat groups, specific breed groups, and if you join these things, there's ways that you could find it. All of these things, like find a decent breeder of labs or whatever, find a home for, find dogs to adopt. Social media is a great way to use, a great way to use social media.
Absolutely.
Definitely. We hear this a lot from Sugarbelle, and I know veterinarians also hear this. I'm on a fixed budget. What can I do? Or, yikes, I just found this pet and I was not planning on extra costs. Help, what do I do? Well, this is just some tips. Many shelters and communities have low-cost vaccination clinics, and you can usually get the vaccinations, including rabies, for a considerably less price. They hold a clinic. A lot of times these clinics are funded by groups within the community to help the people. Greater Birmingham and Shelby County, they hold regular vaccination clinics. There are low-cost spay-neuter options. There are certificates. You can get that from AAAS, Alabama Animal Adoption Society. They're located in Homewood, and they have a list of the participating vets on their site. So does Friends of Cats and Dogs Foundation. I know that for Judah Day, Friends of Cats and Dogs Foundation is one of the beneficiaries, and that's how they offset being able to do their low-cost spay-neuter certificates. And then there's a spay-neuter clinic that's actually in Irondale. It's always a good idea to call ahead to the vet and say, do you accept these certificates? And make sure that they do before you spend the money to purchase one. They may not accept the certificates, but their price may only be $10 more, and you want to use your vet. So you say, okay, well, that's worth it, So please make sure, don't make the assumption, oh, I got a certificate, my vet will take it. Please don't ever make that assumption. Always call ahead, make sure that your vet is accepting something like that you've purchased. Dr. Nicki, am I on task with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
All right. And so, and that's Coco, just so y'all know. Dr. Borden did her hip surgery several years ago. She remodels bathrooms now.
Oh, and I might say, I've been doing a few of these short videos for YouTube and Facebook called Rescue Tales. Sugarbelle Foundation was one of the interviews, and the Spay and Neuter Clinic was another. And I learned a great deal about the Spay and Neuter Clinic. They're very, very, moving forward and setting up, getting bigger and bigger, and really wonderful organization. So if you want to go to YouTube, Hoover Libraries, YouTube or Facebook, you can look for Rescue Tales. There's several other animal related charities that I speak with. Sorry.
No, that was fun. We had a good time on that. Food assistance. We understand that people fall on hard times, but remember that your pet's still that life commitment. Don't be embarrassed to ask for help. I've seen people on Facebook before who posted they needed to find a home for their pets. And this is right about when Sugarbelle was starting out. And I contacted them and said, can you tell me why you need to find a home? Because I lost my job and I can't buy my dog food. No. We're going to get you some help. And in the long run, they were able to keep their pet. So there are things like food pantries at shelters. I know GBHS during the pandemic, people were, I mean, literally, they closed the shelter and people just drove through and picked up food once a week. And it just helped so many people. You might need to call ahead, find out what the requirements are. Some do have a requirement of income or location. There are community-based food pantries. I know that the Pelham Pet Pantry opened up, and I have seen them going to several places. I've seen them in Bessemer. I've seen them in Trussville. There's, I know, a Hueytown Pet Pantry. And again, Sugarbelle Foundation is always happy to help assist with food when necessary. So there are ways to get help for food. Please don't ever let that be the deciding factor that you can't keep your pets. Okay. And then this is resources for emergencies, just a good resource page that we have on our Sugarbelle site. A lot of times, if you know ahead of time that, let's say, your dog has to have a certain surgery, you can get an estimate from your vet. You get on these sites and you start applying. And sometimes you can actually get funding that covers a good portion. Now, they do, on many of them, they do ask you for a lot of information to make sure that you really do need it. But I know that if people take time to go to these sites, it's always helped them. And they've been able, and they won't give you the money. They're going to call your vet clinic directly to pay that money. So that's something you need to know. They're going to contact your clinic and pay that directly there. Okay, so that's just a good resource list of places just to have. And then kind of winding down a little bit, and then we'll have a Q&A. But special thanks to Hoover Library, and Shannon, and Dr. Nicki, and to all of you who attended. If after this, you can probably wanted to go to Sugarbelle Foundation at gmail.com if you think of a question at 3 a.m. and send it to us. We'll find an answer and get it for you. Okay, we'll be emailing it to Dr. Nicki at 3:05. So,
Hey, sometimes I'm awake.
yeah. So we just wanted to thank everybody, and we especially want to thank Shannon for having these great programs at the Hoover Public Library. They're just, I mean, if you haven't checked them out, y'all need to, because they've got some awesome stuff.
Especially if you have kids right now. We've got some great summer programs.
And so
Yes.
I'm going to,
And thank you so much. You guys have pulled this together and it's wonderful. The information is useful no matter where you're from. And I think that the resources here can help some people out. You guys are wonderful. And I really appreciate the help and pulling this together. I'm gonna, can I do that? Oh, well, we have somebody asking if you'll do future programs. Well, that was going to
Send
be my
topic requests.
question.
You know, we're not opposed to that.
no,
Right. That sounds fantastic. And, you know, I have found that going forward, we're going to keep some Zoom programs along with in-person programs. So you never know. And you can always see what the library is up to on their webpage, hooverlibrary.org. We have events, posters, and everything. Great. I'm glad to have you, Elaine, from Florida. Thank you
Oh,
so
wow.
much, guys. Yeah.
Doesn't anybody have any other questions?
Or specific questions, even if they're off topic, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say one thing from my perspective, prevention is much better than emergency situations. I've
Yes.
learned this. If you can get used to doing things like grooming your dog or brushing their teeth or learning how to, take care of their nails, it is better down the road instead of like I had like emergency, dental surgery for your dog, things like that. You could do a lot to prevent future problems with your animal.
And especially heartworm preventative.
Oh
Monthly
yeah.
heartworm preventative is so much less expensive than heartworm treatment and so much better for your
I
pet.
was gonna say less detrimental to your pet too. The heartworm
Yes.
treatment is, I mean, it's easier these days than it used to be, but it's still not fun to put them through.
Mhm.
So if we can avoid that by giving them a treat once a month, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Oh.
one of the dogs that we've helped start hers this Thursday. She's
Dr. Nicki, should they be brushing their dog's teeth every day?
So if you're gonna brush your dog's teeth, you need to do it at least 3 to 4 times a week for it to be beneficial. It's kind of like you brushing your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth for a couple days, you can already feel that buildup. And you think about you going to the dentist every 6 months, and they're doing a deep dental cleaning. They're getting all that stuff that you're brushing twice daily didn't get. And so, I mean, we need to do it kind of regularly if we want it to be beneficial. The dental issues is usually more of an issue with little dogs, not always, but usually. The kind of as we bred them down in size, their dentition got worse, and so we see a lot more dental issues with the smaller dogs. But having them to chew on things can definitely help. As far as getting that some of that tartar off, there are definitely toys and bones and treats that are designated to getting that. And it doesn't have to be bones if your dog's not interested, because several of my dogs, they're not going to touch a bone, they don't care. I do have several that love bones as well, and that's good as far as scraping some of that off. But there are treats. There's I know Science Diet has one called TD where they're kind of big square treats where they're chewing it and it's brushing that plaque off as they're chewing it. I know Greenies has some for cats that my cats love. So those are good options too.
Right. Well,
And
thank you.
I was just gonna real quick tell a funny story from college. The guy I dated in college, his grandfather bred German line German Shepherds. And I didn't know much about breeding. I didn't know much about anything because everything I found was under a car or in a tree. So, I came home one day and there was a note on the door that just said, Sandra is in the backyard. Love, Buster. I'm like, what? So I walk around to the backyard and I'm like, what's back there? And this emaciated German Shepherd. I mean, just pitiful, beautiful, but pitiful, long-haired female shepherd. So we took her in and we called, of course, and he said that he had gotten word. Now, this man at the time was 80. He had gotten word that one of his dogs was being mistreated. Drove out to the owner's home and said, take my dog back. And the owner was like, oh, I'm calling the police. He rips out the contract and he said, you go ahead and call whoever you want. I'll wait. The dog in the car. And she ended up going to a new farm with a vet. But, that's how I kind of learned how, I guess, a reputable breeder worked, because
Absolutely.
I knew how their setup was at their home and what it looked like. And he just didn't play. I mean, he was 80 years old and he just drove on out there, took his dog back, and he wasn't, you want to call police?
Wasn't kidding.
Call police.
Yeah.
But you broke your contract and this dog's in bad shape and I'm coming back after you. And I thought, oh, but she did become best friends with my ferret. So she had a unique little time with us.
Well, my grandmother was a champion breeder of Dalmatians. And you know that every time a new Disney show comes out with Dalmatians, there's a spate of adoptions for Dalmatians. And if you don't know Dalmatians, they are high energy no matter what age, and crazy. Yes.
I live next door to one in Florida.
She pretty much every Dalmatian in the southeastern United States is somehow related to my grandmother's Dalmatians. But she really went after the care of her offspring. So it's always fun to go when you want a new friend. Go down to the Humane Society. They have a great setup. They keep them in really great situation and adopt a friend.
I was gonna say, alternatively, you can look on Pet Finder,
Mhm.
somewhere like that, and that way you can broaden your horizons a little bit if you're looking for something specific. And that's something, I grew up in rescue and am very pro rescue. I do have a couple that were chosen at a younger age, and selected for certain reasons and whatnot. But you can find what you're looking for in rescue. You might need to be more patient. And the same
Mhm.
thing can be true at a reputable breeder. They're not having puppy after puppy after puppy. So you might have to wait a little bit before you get really what you're looking for or what's going to be the best match for you. But that's one of the benefits of Pet Finders. Like they don't have to be in Birmingham for somebody in Birmingham to find them. We
Right.
adopted many out
And
long
we were
distances.
mentioning too, if you live in a place that will not accept pets, we've got a cat cafe in Birmingham. We have places where you can go to play with cats. You can go to the shelters and read to the dogs. You can take your kids and read to the dogs. You can go and be a volunteer at any organization. There are plenty of opportunities for you to be around animals and get that feedback that a lot of people crave. So, don't give up on the idea of being a pet lover. Find an outlet for that.
And I know
And
that,
I will
Oh,
wrap it up. We're right at an hour, and you guys were fantastic. Thank you so, so much.
Of course.
And I
Thank
hope to see
you.
you here in the library.